Did you wash your hands with soap? Did you dry them?
What? Is this all vegetables? Who ordered all vegetables?
I did.
So, are we going to talk about it?
What?
The elephant in the room.
What elephant?
Mom's new job.
It's time to make some wrong things right. Help me bring supers back into the sunlight. We need to change people's perceptions about superheroes, and Elastigirl is our best play.
Better than me?
Whoa! I like Mom's new job.
Bye, sweetie.
I'll watch the kids, no problem.
That's not the way you're supposed to do it, Dad. They want us to do it this
I don't
way.
know that way. Why would they change math? Math is
It's
math.
okay,
Math
Dad.
is math. Hello?
Hey, honey. How are the kids?
Everything's great.
Is she having adolescence?
And Jack?
He's in excellent health.
Whoa, what the?
Num num cookie.
Oh, no.
Cookie.
Whoa, dang. That is freaky.
You know it's crazy, right? To help my family, I gotta leave it. To fix the law, I gotta break it.
You've got to, so our kids can have that choice.
Thank you, young man.
Combustion imminent? What does that mean? Ah!
It means fire, Robert.
The screenslaver interrupts this program for an important announcement.
Suit up. It might get weird.
I'll be there ASAP.
Where you going ASAP? You better be back ASAP.
Yeah, Frozzo's just like, bitch, you ain't taking my super suit with you this time around. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 4 films that make up June 15th, 2018. And we're starting off with the biggest new release of the weekend, which is, of course, Incredibles 2, coming 14 years after the original film. Everybody's been demanding it. You know, they've all been saying, well, you're making all these Cars movies. Where's our Incredibles sequel? And finally Pixar was just like, all right, here. Shut the hell up. And we got Brad Bird back, too. So, yeah, now you can double shut the hell up. But in this one, you have Mr. Incredible left to take care of Jack while Elastigirl is out saving the world. Bob Odenkirk plays the head of this giant telecommunications company who wants to bring superheroes back. He's a superhero fan, and he thinks that Helen is the key focal point to getting superheroes back into the mainframe. And yeah, it's about it's a movie where I'll say this. When this was coming out, I made a post on the website about talking about how I didn't think this movie was going to live up to the hype at that point. And mostly because I thought it was just too long of a wait. I have this thing with sequels coming way past the last movie. And I said in the past that I wasn't going into this with a lot of high expectations that everyone was going into it with. I was just expecting it to be good. But I wasn't like everybody else who was probably going into this with the highest expectations ever. Yeah, it's cool that they got the cast back. It's cool they got Brad Bird back to direct this. But it's been 14 years, and I have been, like I said, when it comes to sequels that have come long after the original, I've been more let down than very receptive of what the sequel does here. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but you get the idea. Like, I went into this with not that high of an expectation count like everybody else did, but honestly, that was probably the best way to go into that, because not only did I think this movie was not only on par with the original Incredibles, but I would even go as far as to say I actually kind of liked it a little bit more than I did the first movie, which is hard to believe, because I love the first film. It's one of my favorite movies, but I really love this movie, man. I really went into this movie just expecting a good movie, but when I came out of it, I was all smiles, man. I loved the hell out of this film. This is a movie that could turn a bad day into a good day for you just watching it. And the greatest thing about it is that it doesn't take the cheap way out. It just does it doesn't do just a straightforward cash grab sequel. They actually put a lot of effort and time to make sure we get the follow-up we long deserve, and they deliver on it here. And it's not the first time a Pixar sequel has done that for me. I mean, with Toy Story 3, and basically every Toy Story sequel that came before that, I was always expecting that bad movie to come around, because it's just like, Toy Story's a profitable franchise. With Toy Story 3, it had been 11 years since the last movie, and I thought to myself, okay, alright, this is where the franchise is going to come cratering down. And then Toy Story 3 comes out. It's my favorite movie of the year, next to How to Train Your Dragon. I mean, yeah, this was back when Pixar can usually do no wrong, and even their worst movies was like a 3 out of 5, honestly. But, I mean, it's great seeing the voice cast come back for this. You got a lot of returning voices: Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Samuel L. Jackson, Sarah Vowell. They're back in here. They did a good job with a replacement actor for Dash, too, Huck Milner, who is so pitch perfect similar to Spencer Fox. I really did think it was the same voice actor at first. And the new voice actors they bring in here, they're a lot of fun, too. Like I said, Bob Odenkirk is basically playing Saul Goodman. I mean, it really wasn't him, but he might as well have been Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul with the way that he was selling himself when he plays this character of Winston Deaver. I mean, he literally has the mannerisms. The face looks like Saul Goodman, kind of. Looks like what Bob Odenkirk's face looks like. I mean, it's almost close to him. I mean, Kathleen Keener was pretty good, too, as Evelyn. And speaking of Better Call Saul, it's amazing that they got Jonathan Banks to play Rick Dicker, who would replace Bud Lucky. So there's a little bit of a Better Call Saul reunion in there, even though the show was still going on at that time. But the animation is once again really solid. It never felt like you left this universe. They did a good job of updating the animations for what kind of animated movies were coming out around that time. And it does a really good job of keeping everything in check to make sure it connects to the end of the first movie. Like, the film literally begins after the first movie, where the Underminer is taking over the city, and that's where the story takes off from there. And of course, the Incredibles get into trouble once again by destroying half the city in general, and now they're in the witness protection program once again. What really sold me on this was the comedy. I mean, there were so many moments in this where I laughed long and hard. It's so hilarious watching a lot of these scenes, but none more than watching Jack fight that fucking raccoon, man. I mean, the minute I saw that raccoon getting lasered by Jack on the poster, I had no idea that this was going to be a big scene in the movie. But then I see that there's a lot of focus on this raccoon so much that there's even toy sets. There were even toy sets out there with this raccoon with Jack, and all I can think to myself is, man, this better be one hell of a scene to make sure such a big deal out of it. And yeah, it pretty much was. Whenever Jack fights this raccoon, it's the funniest scene in the movie. It's animated well, everything about it just works so well. And I think what makes it even funnier is the fact that despite the raccoon getting continuously fucked up and confused over what is going on right now, he's just like, fuck it, I don't care if you're a child or not, I'm gonna beat the living shit out of you. And he always comes back and fights again. It is so hilarious. There's a lot of those moments in this film where the laughs are just so hilarious in here and well done. I also liked a lot of the action sequences in this. Very stylized, very creative, and just a ton of fun. There's like, I will say this, when I went to see the film, it's funny because they put these signs out in front of the theaters that says, this film has sequences with multiple strobe lighting effects, so people who are susceptible to epilepsy should be cautious of that. And I'll say this, when I first saw that, I was just kind of like, well, that seems kind of odd, because it's unusual. I never saw a movie where they literally tell you, this film has scenes of multiple strobe lighting effects, so if you're sensitive to that, be aware of that. Like, I never saw that before in my life until I saw this movie. And let me just say, once I saw that stuff on there, yeah, I'm not going to lie, that stuff does get you on your head. There's several impressive action sequences, but yeah, those strobe lighting effects that, if you're susceptible to epilepsy, yeah, you should be cautious going into this, because, yeah, there's one sequence that's, like, on and off for, like, 30 seconds, kind of like what we just saw at the end of that trailer there, and then there's another that's just straight for 90 seconds. That's over a minute and a half of these strobe lighting effects. They're good. They're used to good effect, but, yeah, it's strenuous to your eyes. I don't have that problem, but I'll tell you, when I was watching this, because I saw this in 3D, when I saw that, it got to me. I was going like, okay, I can't handle this, man, because this is just way too much. So yeah, if you easily succumb to epilepsy, be cautious when you watch the scene, because as cool as it is, yeah, your eyes will get really strenuous when you watch it overall. So But another thing that made the movie really great was the homages that they were able to do and the references they do here. Like, it literally begins with an homage to the Jack Attack shirt that was on the Incredibles DVD. But then on top of that, you have a lot of great homages to The Outer Limits, Johnny Quest, which is funny because they showed a sequence from Johnny Quest, and I really thought they had created that exclusively for the movie because it was something that had never been seen in the original series. But if you watch closely, you can see like the little homages to The Simpsons and Brad's former co-workers, like how the news reporter is a lot like Conan O'Brien, how the idea of the hover train moving out of control is a reminiscence of Marge versus the Monorail. There's a ton of those little homages and references throughout the film. If there's any real problem about the film overall that I really didn't like, I hated how predictable the antagonist ended up being. Because, yeah, the screenslaver has a cool design to him and look to him, but if you watch carefully throughout the film, you can easily find out who the screenslaver really is. As it turns out, it's the Catherine Keener character. And then it's just kind of like, you know, this was around that time when, for some reason, Disney loved to do these surprise villains. And, yeah, it was cool at first with Wreck-It. It was cool at first, but actually, now that I think about it, even when they did it in Wreck-It Ralph, I was like, I do remember when I first saw that, I was one of the few people that really came to the idea that, okay, this is going to be, King Candy's going to be the villain. He's actually going to be Turbo. And yet, every time I see people talk about this movie years later, they were just kind of like, well, I was shocked to find out. It's just like, how did you not figure that out? I could figure it out from when Turbo first appeared and mix that in with King Candy's first scene in the movie. It's just kind of like, yeah, that's who I think it's going to be. But yeah, for some reason, they kept doing this all the time. Sometimes it works, but more times than not, it doesn't. I think the only time it ever worked for me was in Zootopia, because you never figure out at first that the Jenny Slate character, Bellwether, was actually the main villain, or the first time you see it. But then when you watch it later on, it's just kind of like, okay, I could see kind of the pieces coming together. Like, I mean, I'm glad that trend is kind of steering away right now, but it's just something where it's just kind of like, it got to a point where it got really annoying really fast here. And yeah, her whole, and Catherine Keener's whole plan overall to get rid of the supers and all that really isn't that much. I mean, it's really not that deep overall, and it really did kind of ruin a little bit of the flow of the film, but never to the point where I hated the film overall. I still really enjoyed this film. I wanted to keep my expectations in check, and I came out really loving the film overall. Even a little bit more than the first film I did. It's a great movie all around. Great animation, great action, great comedy, great thrills. Just a great movie. I mean, this is one of the best movies of the year easily. It's up there with Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War. It's a great film. It's definitely one of the year's best, one of the best sequels ever. Incredibles 2 is great. So let's go ahead and move on to another movie, which, unlike Incredibles 2, this one just got kind of lost in the shuffle after it came out. It's a shame because this is a really good movie. Let's talk about Tag.
Susan, you take Jerry to be your husband.
What's the difference between Episcopalian and Lutheran?
Oh, Episcopalians don't eat fish.
That's pescatarian. That's not a religion.
They're all fanatics. I don't know. You may kiss the bride.
I love you.
Please tell me what's going on here.
Our group of friends has been playing the same game of tag for 30 years.
What?
For the entire month of May, every year we play tag. You touched me. You never know when someone's gonna pop up. Congratulations, buddy. You're in. Doing great, Anna. Our buddy Jerry, he's the best that ever played. And now he wants to retire. Never been tagged. Just saying. So who's it? Can't touch this. This is the year we get Jerry. Can't touch this. Synchronize your watches. I don't know how to do that. I don't wear a watch.
Time is a construct.
Some couples go on cruises, some couples go camping, some couples go to strip clubs and have gangbangs. And this is just what we love. This is our gangbang.
Wow. Seems like the game has really kept you guys connected.
All right. Good to see you. Come on. It's been a while since we've done this. This game has given us a reason to be in each other's lives.
I think your dad would have really wanted you to be. Yeah.
My dick.
Balls.
But
Ice cream.
what?
He knows I'm lactose intolerant. He's taunting.
And yes, this actually is based on a true story. It's based on a real-life group of friends from Spokane, Washington, known for playing a month-long game of tag every May over a 23-year period, and actually got spotlighted in a story by the Wall Street Journal in 2013, after which began receiving offers to adapt the story into a movie, and thus, that's where we're at right now. Now, despite the fact that none of the actual guys who are in this group are represented here, I mean, it's a movie that I thought was just so fun in just how they were putting this together. And again, it kind of came in wet. I think their big mistake was releasing us on the same weekend as Incredibles 2, because it got lost in the shuffle. It wasn't the big financial hit as people were expecting it to be, but it's a great movie, man. I really enjoyed this one a lot. So at 9 years old, a group of tight-knit friends played by Ed Helms, Jeremy Renner, John Hamm, Jake Johnson, and Hannibal Barris created a game of tag that they played throughout the month of May. After 30 years, it was the thing that brought them together, even when their lives took them into different directions. However, this might be their last, as it seems like Jerry, who has never been tagged, might quit. He's getting married, and he's the characters played by Isla Fisher, Annabelle Wallis from The Mummy, Rashida Jones, and Leslie Bibb in the cast as well. And this was a really good movie. Granted, it's not on the same levels as Game Night, but it's still a really good movie, man. I really enjoyed this film. It was really funny. It gets you right at the beginning of the movie, in the first 10 minutes, where you see John Hamm slammed into a glass wall trying to break away from Ed Helms. The chemistry in this movie is what holds it together. This cast is great together. They share a ton of funny moments in this film, but the breakout movie star in this is Jeremy Renner. Like, this is a guy that, 6 years ago, he was supposed to be the big action star with The Bourne Legacy, but of course that didn't work out. That didn't turn out to be the big hit that it was supposed to be. But here, he is great in this movie. He is the funniest person in the film, and he just feels like he's having the time of his life playing this role. I like how they gave him the ability to know when everybody is coming. It's like they took from Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes and put it into this movie. It's a film that asks you to suspend your disbelief and just go along for the ride, and they do a good job of convincing you to do so, because there are so many scenes that get so ridiculously stupid, and the film acknowledges how stupid and insane it gets sometimes, that you just accept it and go along for the ride. Granted, I will say this, it does kind of fall off a little bit in the third act. Not a lot of laughs in the last half hour, but it does try to gain an emotional reaction out of something that happens at the tail end. But it's just kind of thrown in there at the last minute, as the event that happens at the tail end is never mentioned at any point in the film. So it just comes off as kind of a pointless moment to add a little humility to the situation, which I really don't think it needed. I think the fact that the tag game kept them together for 3 decades should be more than enough to be the emotional pull that holds the film together. And as much as I love Rashida Jones, she was kind of useless here. She's just kind of there to be kind of the love interest for either Jake Johnson or John Hamm to fight over. And she really doesn't have anything to do except to just be the love interest. And Jones has been more than proven she can be a charm to your movie, no matter what you put her in. And yet, you don't really give her a whole lot to do overall, except to just be the love interest. I think the big differences between Game Night and Tag is that Game Night is able to remain funny and entertaining and creative throughout its run. Tag can still do that, but it's that third act that really kind of stops it from getting to that echelon that Game Night is on. Except for the end credits. With the post-credits scene, I think it's one of the fun. I think it's actually really funny, man. I mean, we just had Deadpool 2 a month ago, and that's right up there with one of the best end credit sequences I've ever seen. And this is a great movie, though. It's a great film. Even if the last third of the film falters off a bit, I still really enjoy this film a lot. The laughs are abound in the first 2 acts. The cast works great off each other. The story works well. I really enjoyed this movie. It's definitely a film that I think deserves some reappraisal as a great film. It's a great comedy, a very underrated film. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. Tag is definitely worth it. It's worth getting tagged for, if you will. So those are the 2 great films. Now let's get to the steaming piles of garbage. And boy, are we starting off with a good one with a bad one to begin here, because when I think of classic movies from the past that deserve to be remade for a modern generation, you know which movie I first think of? Superfly.
In the streets, they only want to hustle for the money and the flash. There's no shame about that. But you're special. Tomorrow's day looking here. Money comes easy. I say I heard. Just keeping it gets hard. But if you can play the game by your own rules and win, that's Superfly. Superfly.
The movie is literally directed by somebody called Director X. That should have been your first sign not to do this. And actually, that should have been your second sign, because your first sign should have been thinking about remaking a 1970s blaxploitation classic for a 2010s audience. Yeah, that doesn't seem like it. That doesn't seem like an idea that will fly here, quite literally. But you have Trevor Jackson as a drug lord trying to complete for a final job while surviving an assortment of enemies. And I mean, this movie doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work for the main reason being that, I'll say one thing that's positive about it. It does have a unique visual style that tried to give it a sense of an idea of having it be set in this time period overall. But then again, that's really about it, because everything else about the movie, there's no reason to make this movie in a modern day. They tried doing this already in the 1990s with the return of Superfly, and that didn't work out very well. And let's just be honest, they really made this movie just to sell the soundtrack. I mean, you see them putting more focus on the soundtrack than they were the actual movie. If you put more effort into the soundtrack than the actual film, then that's probably your first sign that you should probably not make this movie. Nothing happens in this movie that's interesting. The main characters are not interesting, the story isn't interesting, and just the whole idea of remaking this for a new generation. I mean, the original Superfly works in the 70s because it's a film that was primed for the 1970s. It was perfect for the time period. When you try to modernize it for the 1990s or the 2010s, it's not going to work out very well unless you have a good hook to it. And there's just none of that in this film here. It's a movie that just feels like it feels like they're obligated to do it because Superfly is a name, and you know, who cares if this is a movie that probably won't fly in today's world? We're still going to do it anyway. I mean, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. The story is generic. There's nothing about these characters that are likable. It doesn't have that. This doesn't have that cheesy charm that the blaxploitation classic had back in the 1970s. It plays it way too straight, and it's just such a disjointed piece of garbage overall. Like I said, if your director's name is literally Director X, I mean, that's not a good sign overall. It basically is like the equivalent of having Alan Smithy directing your movie here. Like, a name like Director X doesn't scream quality overall. Like, can you imagine a director named Director X making a movie like The Odyssey? Like, do you think people would still go to see that movie even if it was the Gargant? Even if it was, do you think people would still go see that movie if The Odyssey was directed by Director X? Answer me that. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I agree. It wouldn't work. So why would you think a movie like this was? It's almost the equivalent of having Calamatic directing House Party and White Man Can't Jump, those remakes that came out a couple years later. Both were terrible, and just there are certain. The bottom line here that I'm trying to get across here is that there are certain movies that should be made that are made for time periods that should just stay in the time period. House Party and White Man Can't Jump are examples of films where they worked in the 1990s because they embodied the 1990s. Superfly worked back in the 70s because it embodied the feel and the mentality of the 1970s. Trying to bring it into two different generations and not working, that should probably be your sign to basically not do it. Yeah, this movie just didn't work. It wasn't great. It wasn't worth it. It was only there to really sell the soundtrack overall, and there's just nothing there that you haven't seen done in 1,000,000,006 other movies of this type. Except it's a movie called Superfly, and it's just like it doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work. It's a bad film. It's a pointless remake. There's just no reason to do it. There's no reason to do this whatsoever. They even tried to do it again the following year with Shaft, which is slightly better, but still not a great movie overall. We'll touch on that next year, when we get to 2019. But yeah, Superfly, there ain't nothing super about it, and there ain't anything fly about it at all. Just take that for what you will. So, but I'll give it this. At least it's better than our last movie, John Travolta starring as John Gotti in Gotti.
Let me tell you something. New York is the greatest city in the world. My city. I was a kid in these streets, and I made it to the top. I made my bones doing a piece of work for Don Carlo Gambino. Like that, I became a made man.
Dad, I'm thinking maybe take a year off. You want to hang out with me?
Do you know what you're doing to this family?
I will build something that nobody can destroy. So,
man, if you think this is crazy, wait until you see what I do with the Fanatic next year. So yeah, this is a movie that you would think would probably work because, I mean, John Travolta is not really a bad choice to play John Gotti, but everything else about the movie, just the fact that, first of all, it's directed by E from Entourage, Kevin Connolly. And it's a movie that originally had people like Barry Levinson and Al Pacino attached to it at some point. But how you went from Barry Levinson and Al Pacino to E and Vinnie Barbarino, it does not make a whole lot of sense. And the movie, like, this movie should be passable. And yet it can't even do that. And yeah, this movie is a mess, man. So this is a story, of course, about John Gotti. It talks about, it's basically a biopic about the life of him, how he began his time in the Gambino crime family, and how eventually he became the mob boss that he became known for. And again, on paper, this shouldn't be that bad. It should be something that's at least passable, and yet it can't even do that well. This movie is such a mess, from the writing to the directing to the performances by most of the cast overall, except for Travolta, who really is giving his all in this. And truth be told, the makeup work isn't bad. It's not bad at all. It's just the rest of the movie is just complete and utter garbage. There's nothing else around this character to build a movie around, and it's one of those films that is just so poorly put together, and you could just tell that this was a film that was never going to fly whatsoever and become that movie that should, the definitive Gotti biopic overall. Like, if you want to see the definitive Gotti biopic, go watch the Armin Asante movie. The Armin Asante movie that was on HBO back in 1996 is a much better movie that works because they're telling a story. They're giving you a world for this guy to work around. It's not just a movie where it's simply and effectively trying to do a movie that's just basically, trying to be a generic, a generic safe. The biggest problem with it is that it has a lot of problems that most of these musical biopics have nowadays. It's too safe. It's too marketable. You could get a sense that watching this movie, this was probably somebody from the Gotti family was probably the one saying, "Don't do this to my family." Overall, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this the way we want you to do it. And the big differences between the musical biopics and this is that these guys will literally kill you if you don't listen to them. I mean, that's literally what they do. But it's just, this movie just doesn't work. Everything around it is so badly put together. I like one of the review quotes here because it perfectly sums up this movie. 4 directors, 44 producers, and 8 years to make the worst mob movie of all time. And that says a lot. Think about that. But there was even a little bit of a controversy, too, with Rotten Tomatoes. Shocker, Rotten Tomatoes is involved in a controversy. Who knew? So, there was a whole thing where the audience approval score of this was like 80%, even though the critic score was 0%. And, it's since dropped down to like 44%, but still, a movie that has a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes had a approval score of 80%. And, it was actually Dan Muir from Screen Junkies who noted this, and basically it was basically they basically had there was accusations against the production studio and marketing team, which increased after the release to try to hit back at the critics. The campaign was basically saying, ignore the trolls behind a keyboard, and audiences love Gotti because critics don't want you to see it. No, critics don't want you to see it because the movie is bad. Yeah, this screams like something like a company like Angel Studios would do. Because Angel Studios is notoriously known for inflating its numbers to make the film look like it's much bigger of a success overall. I mean, they've done this in the past. I mean, it's proven out there that they've done this. And the fact that a company like this was so wanted this to be the hit that it was, that they went out there to basically tell people that you're the crazy ones. No, you're the ones that don't know what you're talking about. This is a masterpiece. It's just like, whatever, dude. And then Rotten Tomatoes eventually said that there was no evidence of tampering and all the reviews were left by active accounts, which basically means that the studio probably paid them off. I mean, let's be honest here. They made this for $10 million, so yeah, quite honestly, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they used an extra money to shut people up there. But But regardless, this movie is flat out garbage. It's a terrible movie. An idea that could work overall. A performance that's trying with John Travolta and just falling apart because the movie around him is so badly put together. Avoid Gotti like the plague. It is one of the worst movies of the year. One of the worst movies you'll ever see. Plain and simple. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we'll wrap up the month of June with a double weekend, because there's only one big new release coming out on June the 22nd, and that is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, the sequel to Jurassic World, and, directed by Juan Antonio Bayona. It was a movie that got a lot of us really excited because we really liked the first one. And then the second one came out, and, we'll talk about it. It's a disjointed film, but we'll talk about it. We'll take a look at that, and then we'll take a look at the last weekend of June with Sicario, Day of the Soldado, the sequel to Sicario, of course. One of the big surprises of the year, honestly, a movie that I did not expect to be any good, Kyrie Irving as Uncle Drew. Yeah, if you were telling me that Uncle Drew would turn out to be a really good movie in 2018, I would have said you were crazy, but lo and behold, it actually was. And yeah, that's about it, really. There's no other movies of here worth talking about here. Well, there is one more. I'll touch on this too. We'll take a look at Game Changers, which is a documentary about TV game shows hosted by Alex Trebek. And we'll take a look at that as well. So 4 movies overall. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Sicario, Day of the Soldado, Uncle Drew, and also Game Changers. So we'll touch on those 4 films coming up tomorrow on the show. I hope you will join me for that. With all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care. Bye.